There has been a massive outcry on social media at this moment. This is after many pine trees were cut off at the iconic stretch here in Upper Shillong, which leads to Sora and West Khasi Hills. Many have questioned the government's move and the impact of development on environment.
Locals took to social media to share pictures and visuals of pine trees, some more than 100 years old, being cut down in the name of road expansion. Senior journalist and editor of the Shillong Times, Patricia Mukim, also took to Facebook to share pictures of the cut down trees. This was done for the widening of the Shillong-Dawki National Highway that will pass through the Upper Shillong Protected Forest. The project is estimated to affect over 16 hectares of forest area and is being carried out by National Highways and Infrastructure Development Corporation, a company owned by the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. When EastMojo visited the spot in question, locals were already there to protest the cutting of trees. They said it was unacceptable to let this happen as concerned citizens.
Yesterday what happened is I saw a post on Facebook and how these trees were being cut down to construct a road. At the very site, it was very heartbreaking for us to see this iconic place being destroyed right in front of our eyes. So we couldn't, this came as a shock to us. We didn't expect this iconic place to get destroyed like this. I have friends from all over India who talk about this place especially. The beauty of this place. You drive through this place and it's a very pleasant experience. And to see this thing getting destroyed was not acceptable. And it was at the same time we want development. We want development, but not in this way to destroy all the iconic places. At least save some places for people to see. These are 100 years old, even more than that. And just in a mere day, you destroy all these beauties, which took all those years to grow. So it's not acceptable. So as a concerned citizen, we just couldn't just see and let this thing happen. So we had to come here and see ourselves and at least do a bit to somehow safeguard this, save this iconic place. Not just this iconic place. Trees are getting cut everywhere to construct roads for other things, infrastructures and all. But what the government needs to do is plan properly all these, how to go about the development with minimal losses to the environment.
Angel Arangad, a well-known activist from the region, said that this was not the first instance of old heritage trees being cut for development.
So the question now is, why are we doing this kind of massive road expansion? Whatever said and done, we're a hill state. And this kind of disturbance to the topography surely will bring in its wake some natural disasters. We saw from Uttarakhand, for instance, the excessive dam making, etc., how it led to those flash floods and also the landslips much more than before. So are we prepared then for the outcome of this kind of unabated development? Meaning development of roads, and we need to question also what for. The population is going to increase, there will be more cars if we do not regulate the fact that we do not want that many cars on the road. It's more important that we improve our public transport system, whether within Shillong or inter-district. And that in itself will mean fewer vehicles on the road. You don't need to expand your roads that much. And the big question really is this really for citizens, this kind of road expansion, or is it just for a few companies to facilitate, again, greedy, rampant resource extraction, whether it's coal or limestone and now boulders, sand. So when do we stop? So we need to question this very model of development that we're pursuing.
Dr. Brimley Lindo, Director of Natural Capital Earth Bank and former environmental economist for World Bank, also shared his concern over the environmental degradation of Meghalaya.
So it's not just about those trees, but the whole state has been depleted. There's been rampant mining, destruction of ecosystems, of watersheds and springs. There are coke factories choking our people with poisonous fumes everywhere. And the planet is in pain, and Mother Earth is crying right now. So as concerned global citizens, and not just as citizens from Meghalaya, we should do our part, not only fighting for those 100-year-old trees, but also look at ways how we can find a balance in our so-called development. We must look at achieving those sustainable development goals of the UN. Not only in Meghalaya, not only in India, but for the whole world. We need to think as global citizens. So we had invited Conrad Sangma to our meeting in Ko, at the Ko Palace in Switzerland 2 years ago, to talk about land and security in the context of climate change. It's now even more relevant because we've got just 10 years left to prevent runaway climate change, or what we call irreversible climate change. If we don't take action now to protect our fragile, life-supporting ecosystems, global temperatures will rise to 1.5 or even 2 degrees centigrade in the next 10 to 15 years. Our glaciers are already melting in the Himalayas, releasing crazy weird pathogens and viruses into our water stream and food streams. If those viruses reaches our human bodies through the transfer from birds and bats and bears, we will be in trouble. We're already battling COVID-19 right now. That's just one of the viruses, but there are many more to come if we keep disrespecting and keep destroying our ecosystems.
Chief Minister Conrad Sangma also took to Twitter in reaction to the felling of trees. However, his response seemed too little and too late for those opposed to the loss of green heritage. Many questioned how the Chief Minister was oblivious to what was happening in the state. Later on Wednesday, Meghalaya's Environment Minister, James Sangma, said that only 8 trees were cut for the road expansion project.
A lot of people have that concern that the entire row of these Cryptomeria japonica trees, these which provide this heritage tree line, are going to be felled. So I would like to allay that fear and say that due to unavoidable circumstances, we have to fell only 8 number of those trees. And there are 2 which are diseased, as I have mentioned. So these 2 diseased trees along with these 8 will have to be felled. But we are very, very conscious about the fact that these whatever trees are being felled, we have to compensate that, and for that the compensatory afforestation will be taking place. And the government is very, very very concerned about this, and we are always very mindful of the fact that trees are very important. That's why the right of way requirement also has been reduced, and NHIDCL has been very, very cooperative to ensure that that standard 45 to 60 meters from the median has been reduced to 24 meters.
Studies say urban tree cover is declining every day. It is estimated that about 15.3 billion trees are cut every year across the globe. The incident compels us once again to consider alternatives to felling trees in the name of development. EastMojo spoke to Professor Uma Shankar from the Northeastern Hill University, who listed out a range of alternatives to cutting trees.
Alternatives can be a few, not many of course. One is that we can relocate or transplant these trees from their current location to another location. But then in that case there are 2 or 3 things involved. One is that we have to identify the most suitable and similar location where they can be transplanted. The task is easier said but not so easy to be executed, because the height of the trees already is quite big, their biomass is heavy. We will need large cranes, entire system, a long planning, and then it has to be executed. And of course there will be expenditure on it. So if all that is there and if we are ready to meet all that, we can fetch needed technical know-how for relocation also from outside. There are some agencies which do that. There are examples which exist of relocation of large trees, but it is a difficult proposition. Another thing which is associated with relocation is that the entire root system for a tree has to be uprooted, because trees survive with their root tips from where they absorb the mineral nutrition. In smaller plants, the spread of the roots is confined, but for large trees like this, the roots underground travel for meters and meters and meters, several meters. So in the process of transplanting, there is always a possibility that we break the root system, do not take it intact completely, then there may be some hazard caused to the tree during transplantation. Simply up to the transplantation is not enough. We have to do aftercare also, so that the tree establishes at the newer location properly, and this aftercare can be for years, actually a few years. So that also has to be taken into consideration. Second option can be like, if we can align the road in such a way that the trees are in the middle of the road, the divider of the road, then on left side or right side is the road, and these can be aligned. So if this alignment geologically, geomorphologically, geographically and socially is possible, that can be done. So a comprehensive study is required for that, and that has to be taken into consideration. What I see, the third option is like, if we can divert the road, if we can think of a loop road in which the current road exists as such, and the loop road goes bypassing this, and the current road and loop road become one ways. So one way for going, one way for coming, entire. So this can be the third option which can work out. For all this, again a survey at the ground level is required. I do not know when this project, as has been flashed in the news media, was conceived and announced in 2015. At that time, certainly there must have been the study, there must have been environmental audit, there must have been the consultation with the public. All those processes must have been there before gaining environmental clearance from the authorities to take up this project. When we are thinking of making these issues now, we are probably too late now. We should have done that much earlier, and at that time what has happened, that has to be thought. But now when we want to save these trees and also want to develop so that we can have the road and we can have the trees both together, it is possible, but certainly it will be a costly proposition.
Though the Meghalaya Chief Minister was quick to intervene and asked the NHIDCL to stop. But now the question arises, why didn't the government have proper planning and avoid the cutting down of these trees? This is Princess Rashir for EastMojo.com in Shillong.
Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to EastMojo. For any queries, put them down in the comments section below and press on the bell icon for notifications.